in when we're recording.
Oh, I just closed it, so I'll bring it back up then. So I did hit record just now. There.
So basically, what happened?
So I came across a topic I think my dad would find interesting, so I decided to do an impromptu one, and here we are. So
Shall we introduce ourselves again for those that haven't checked this out yet?
oh right, cause there was only you and Michael so far that have watched it. I'm Nathan.
He's the son. I'm the father. Haha. Steve is my name.
Okay, so we're gonna start out with roughly 1.5-ish minute bit of context before we get into the meat. So
Happened is that a white mom called a 5-year-old black kid the N-word. And so in response to that, the internet did what it does best, and it doxed her, and it started harassing her and doing the usual stuff that everybody on the internet does. Help me protect my family. My name is Shiloh, and I've been put in a very dire situation. I recently had a kid steal from my 18-month-old son's diaper bag in the park. I called the kid out for what he was, which, by the way, being that I called him the N-word. Another man who recently found out that he has a history with law enforcement proceeded to record me and follow me to my car. He then posted these videos online. My social security number has been leaked. My address, my phone number have been given out. My family members are being attacked. My eldest child may not be going back to school. And there's been, I don't know really who this guy is. I have no idea what's happened. These are the people who filmed her. So the original goal was $100,000. That was instantly shattered, and now it's up to $1 million. And this started, by the way, with Carmelo Anthony. If they had never done that GoFundMe for Carmelo Anthony, because he was just an innocent good boy that just got, oh, well, how did this? Ah, jeez. Why is racism making me doing this? Guys, South Park could not even come up with this. You guys know, like, I love racial jokes, but I'm not really actually much of a racist, right? I think this is an example of when you allow double standards in society. Is that double standards radicalize people more than anything else that could ever happen. You could have the average white person watch 15 Klan meetings, 10 hours of Richard Spencer, watch Nick Fuentes on the regular, listen to Kanye West's new album, and even watch AI translated speeches from Adolf Hitler. Even all of those things put together will not radicalize a person more than the Carmelo Anthony official fund. This gives sin to go. This would have never happened if they didn't do this Carmelo Anthony thing. I think that she's going to hit the $1 million.
So for the record, the picture shown, that clip, that short was from 5 days ago.
Okay.
It said Carmelo was just above 500K, and this woman, Shiloh, or whatever her name was, last time I heard, is currently approaching 600K.
Okay.
So
what caught your eye on that?
well, that was just a short clip to help give you context.
Okay.
This video has some really interesting points about nuance and explaining a situation versus supporting it.
Soy Boy constantly stalks Kirshi, trying everything that he can to cancel them. What is this here? What did she even say?
The fact that you can raise money for calling a 5-year-old the N-word is insane. Hope they shut down her campaign. They shouldn't. They didn't shut down Carmelo Anthony's campaign. So getting...
She's right. If you want, like, if they can do... Yeah, she's totally right.
Mad at this just outs you as, like, a very hypocritical person.
Well, it's not even hypocritical because...
Yeah. All right. So there's a lot of stuff here that we've seen.
Yeah.
And to me, it bears a little bit of analysis before we get too much farther. All right. So the guy that has been presenting the case here for both of these videos, the context and the
Yeah,
one here.
his opinion is less important. I just figured he already has a lot of this compiled into a video, so I don't have to go look up every single individual source and such.
Right. No, I understand. Um, it just seems like, okay, so he gets outraged about Carmelo Anthony, but he doesn't seem outraged by this woman, and I'm trying to figure out why.
Um, I don't remember his. It's been a good bit since he did anything specific to Anthony. I don't think he is necessarily outraged about the Carmelo Anthony thing. I think he's more outraged about the hypocrisy that it's okay to. Um, Platform isn't the word. Um, I guess politically racialized? I don't know if that's a thing. Because the guy that Carmelo Anthony killed was a white guy. And the family of Carmelo Anthony has been spinning this as a race issue. Um, Whereas I don't remember the name of the kid who was stabbed to death, but like when the father of the kid who died, when he heard that Carmelo's family was doing a press conference, he didn't go. He went to the press conference, but he didn't get in their way or anything. All he did was stand there at the press conference with his arms crossed because he doesn't think anybody should be grandstanding or politicizing this or making it about race, because it was a quote unquote dispute between two kids, and one of the kids took it way too far,
Yeah.
and he ended up. I don't remember if it was the police, but I know he was kicked out of the press conference just for being there.
Who was kicked out?
The father of the
Okay.
kid that died.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's been a very like quote unquote racially charged situation, but it seems like to be artificially racist, where the woman calling the kid the N-word, 100% that was racist. But because people are um, conflating things as race issues that aren't, when an actual race issue comes up, people just don't care. It's a case of the boy who cried wolf. Or, more apt, the boy who cried racism.
Okay. Well, okay. So my take, generally speaking, is that regardless of which race we should fall into, whoever we're talking about, I think the adage applies. There are bad apples in every barrel.
Yes.
I don't think we can pin it all on one or the other. Nor do I think that we can simply assume because Caucasians are Caucasians that therefore every incident that happens where an African American or whoever it is feels slighted, unless we weigh the evidence, we can't assume every instance to be an act of racism, and likewise vice versa. Now, what is the claim of the Carmelo Anthony defense? He claims it was racist that he was not allowed to sit in their tent.
No, he is. I don't remember. Let me bring the page up. I believe they're saying it's racist that he's being prosecuted. Why is the Carmelo?
It's with a C, but whatever.
Oh, it is with a C. Racist. This is from Kara News. I've never heard of them, but seems like it might be a local thing. And the online vitriol over what?
17-year-old Austin Metcalf was fatally stabbed at a high school track meet in San Francisco in early
No,
April.
in Frisco.
Oh, Frisco. Well, I assume that was a shorthand for San Francisco. Carmelo Anthony, a 17-year-old high school senior, is charged with first-degree murder in that stabbing. Metcalf was white, Anthony's black. Metcalf's father has said multiple times his son's death wasn't about race, and the arrest report obtained by KERA doesn't mention witness statements about race being a factor, but thousands online still assume otherwise. Okay. And so I'm still not seeing what the timeline of events were, so to speak. Is that and just put legal defense in.
Let's see.
And take this off.
Take what off?
Why is the
Accidentally there. Led by his newly hired worked at the Dallas County Public. It's known for his experience. It's a self-defense claim. Fatal stabbing. Yeah, there was a bond reduction and people were criticizing the judge for it.
I suppose that's a video though.
Yeah, it is. From a guy called Nate, the lawyer.
Well, the only way you claim self-defense is if he's attacked. Was he attacked?
As far as I know, I actually don't know the full case. Let's see. Situation. This is CBS News. Jail. What? Yeah. just days after Metcalf was laid to rest.
Anthony and Metcalf were involved in a verbal dispute, and at one point Anthony pulled out a knife and stabbed Metcalf once in the chest.
Yeah, it says
So-
a dispute. Doesn't mention if Metcalf did anything, but
Well, it just says a verbal dispute, and then the knife was pulled by Anthony. Well, I don't know how that rises to the level of self-defense, really.
I thought that, according to the first code, the altercation was between two students and resulted in stabbing the other. Blah 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 blah. Taken to a local hospital. He was suspended. And yeah, this link doesn't say what exactly. So we just know they got into a dispute and Carmelo.
Absent all of the details of the case, if the verbal altercation between Anthony and the guy that he eventually stabbed and killed, even if that was what's the word I want to use?
Self-defense?
No. Even if it was racially
Motivated?
not motivated, racially tainted, racially poisoned. In other words, if the guy that got attacked had used a racial epithet or had made some suggestion, whatever the case may be, that Carmelo Anthony was either not human or somehow beneath whatever. That does not rise. As bad as that does not rise to anything reasonable whereby Carmelo Anthony has a right to then go on an attack with a knife.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, at that point he should have gone to a teacher or some kind of supervisor,
yeah.
brought it to their attention,
Right.
and possibly just have him expelled from the track meet or something.
Well, who knows? And I can understand where individuals, if such a thing was done, where some sort of racial epithet or whatever was hurled at Carmelo Anthony, I can understand why that would make him angry. I can understand why that would cause a big negative reaction. But we do have to have control over ourselves ultimately. How we react to something isn't the same as what the something is that came at us.
Yeah.
If there had been some sort of physical altercation, one could argue perhaps then that Carmelo Anthony's actions may have been justified, but we're not getting the sense of that, at least from the little bit we were able to look
Yeah.
at. So then you hold that event and what happened, what transpired after this money for this legal defense. What I have a trouble with, the fellow that's providing these two videos that we've watched portions of,
Yeah.
he's saying because of this legal defense money raised, what is it called, GoFundMe?
Yeah. I think in this case it's give, send, go.
Well, whichever it is, the point is that because someone in Carmelo Anthony's circle, whoever it was, put up this GoFundMe thing,
I believe it was his parents.
his parents, okay, that this is a bad thing. Well, if the kid isn't justified in the attack, which by the little bit of evidence we've had so far seems to be unjustified. Yeah, that would not seem fair either. However, one could say, regardless of who the defendant is and what the crime is, everybody's entitled to a defense.
Yeah.
And if people want to contribute to the kid's defense, that's their business. There's nobody holding a gun to anybody's head that forces it.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, it's the same thing. And for people to get outraged because Carmelo Anthony's family put up a fundraising thing, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're looking for things to get upset about now.
Yeah.
To me.
I mean, there were rumors that they spent a lot of it buying like a mansion, but as far as I know, none of that has been substantiated, and the Anthony family has shown what they're spending the money on.
So, to my mind, I get a big kick out of this gentleman that. What is his name, by the way?
On YouTube, he is Asmongold.
Asmongold?
Yes.
Okay. He makes a quip. Well, I like a good racist joke, but I'm not really racist. Hello?
Well, it's called edgy humor.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you have to keep in mind, it's like, I make jokes about my depression. It's like, my favorite joke is, you can't bring me down, I'm on antidepressants.
Right, but you're tattling on yourself. You're making fun of yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't fault anybody else who makes jokes about depression either.
Right.
Because depression is an all-around thing, and if people go on and make jokes about something like depression, it normalizes it, makes it easier for people to talk about. Just because something is edgy or makes one person uncomfortable does not automatically label them. It's like,
well, I'm going to say two things to that. One, not that it's a big deal. I'm half Swedish, half Norwegian. Okay.
yeah,
And I tell Ole and Lena jokes all the time. Most people don't even know who Ole and Lena are.
yeah. Honestly, I don't know who they are.
You don't know, and you're half
I'm your
Swede.
son.
They're fictitious characters, common Scandinavian names among Swedes and Norwegians back in the day, and they're always portrayed as not being the brightest bulbs on the tree. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind telling that joke because I'm Scandinavian and I'm bad mouthing myself essentially. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do it to somebody else. Now, in the case of quote-unquote edgy racial jokes, we're talking about an area that is highly sensitized and has been for a long time.
Okay.
And to me, the reason why to stay away from stuff like that is first and foremost to show that we are not hating the butt of the racial joke, especially if my race isn't the butt of the joke.
Okay.
We need to be very careful. Nothing short of gang wars go on in this country, not because of racial jokes, but because of racial hatred. The jokes fuel the hatred. Maybe not in your mind because you're not exposed to it, but what I'm saying is that generally speaking, the people telling the jokes, if they don't hate the butt of the joke, they don't have a lot of fondness.
I have two counterpoints.
Okay.
The first is a very famous example. You know who Gabriel Iglesias is, right?
Yeah.
So he has, I think it's like about a 30-minute segment on YouTube of him going over his trip to India when he had some tours there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the, actually 3 examples that I'm talking about it. So Gabriel Iglesias is an American with Latin ethnicity.
Mm-hmm. Latino.
Yeah, Latino. When he was in India, during one of his performances, he started getting heckled by 3 German dudes
Mm-hmm.
when he was going over what people of different countries like to drink. 'Cause, like, apparently Fanta is a huge thing in India.
Okay.
And these German guys managed to annoy Gabriel to the point because they were like, "Oh, what do we like to drink?" And so Gabriel Iglesias, in a moment of just like being fed up, said, "Blood of Jews."
Oh, ouch.
And it's like, I don't think he hates the German people. And when he recanted the story, nobody took it personally that was there. No, there was no comments on YouTube, at
Well,
least immediate.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like, he did say he regretted it afterwards, but it was more of a heat of the moment thing, and he doesn't hate it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so he doesn't hate Germans in particular. He had a moment where he got really perturbed with 2 particular ones that were making a fuss at a show when they should have been polite, and they were probably drunk. I wouldn't be surprised.
could be.
When they were heckling Julio Iglesias.
Okay. Second counterpoint is also from Gabriel Iglesias. I somehow forgot about this, even though it's
Okay.
his most famous joke. You don't have the best memory, so you probably forgot it. The racist gift basket. When one of his friends, I don't remember the name of the guy, but he was black.
Mm-hmm.
I think this happened in Fresno. It's been a while since I watched the segment. But anyways, Gabriel was passing through a town and he noticed a billboard advertising his comedian friend. So, him and Martine had the great idea of making a racist gift basket.
And who were they going to give it to?
This black comedian friend of theirs.
Okay.
So, it was filled with, I remember fried chicken,
Yeah.
Kool-Aid, I think watermelon, and a bunch of other stuff. And they then went to the hotel that the guy was staying at. They went to the front desk and had them ring up the phone and say he had a gift at the front desk. And when he asked from who, the person at the desk was told to respond, "The Chamber of Commerce."
Jeez. Okay, but now think about this. The comedian friend of theirs, and I underline friend,
Yeah.
okay, gets this,
Yeah.
and he knows
Yeah.
that they're doing this in fun. They're not doing it out of
Oh,
hate,
yeah.
okay?
But then you have to think about
But you don't
all-
do that with a stranger.
But you have to think about it. He told this entire story during one of his comedy routines.
Yeah.
So what about all the other black people that would have seen the segment and apparently they didn't have issues?
They didn't have issues because it was with someone who they were friends with and would understand and laugh.
Yes, but that doesn't actually follow through every single time. I have seen, there was a recent example with a group that I watched called Worst Pre-Made Ever. It's just a group of 5 or 6 friends doing stupid stuff in games and having fun. They, one of their recent videos had a highlight about someone leaving a comment about them, I think it was them being a therapist, and saying, Ellis verbally abuses his wife in the recordings, and that they're afraid of what Ellis does outside of the recordings.
Who is Ellis?
Ellis is one of the 5 or 6 people that get recorded in the videos from Worst Premade Ever.
Okay.
So people, granted, this isn't everyone, but there are clearly people that don't pick up on social cues, subtle cues, anything like that, and still have an issue. So I don't really think, like, I know you and Mom, for example, don't like swearing all that much because it's against a religious belief.
Well, it.
So I control myself around you because I know better. When I'm not around you, I will say whatever the heck I want.
Thus, you notice the graphic that Nathan chose for this
Yeah.
for this series. Okay. Sometime we should have a religious discussion because.
Oh yeah.
That's a big thing here. But anyway, the point is, even if people aren't quick to pick up on things, and this is I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not always quick to pick up on things. But the point is, it's one thing to have fun with somebody you know who isn't going to take it personally.
Yeah.
And it's another thing to say something that can easily be interpreted as
Oh, yeah.
hateful, especially to someone you don't know.
Yeah.
And if you're saying it in anger, or if you're saying it with a note of sarcasm or whatever, all you're doing is pouring gas on the fire.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay. So, my issue with, what's his name again?
Asmongold.
Asmongold. My issue with Asmongold isn't that he points out the hypocrisy in the case of Carmelo Anthony's situation, where he feels like Carmelo Anthony is not justified in claiming this was self-defense, and then putting up a GoFundMe page, and probably he didn't do it. It was parents or whoever, to pay for a legal defense. But somehow he takes that and uses it to justify or make okay or whatever what happened with this woman who called this boy, however old he was, an N-word. I guess, to me, the ultimate goal is peace. The ultimate goal is harmony. And so playing one off of the other, to me, does not contribute to that. If we're going to call out hypocrisy, we should do it in every case. And it seems to me the woman who uses the N-word and then puts up a GoFundMe is just as hypocritical, or almost as hypocritical, if you want to go there, because Carmelo Anthony stabbed somebody.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now, does that justify this woman's being attacked online? No.
Yeah.
Nor does it justify all the hatred towards Carmelo Anthony. Come on, people.
Yeah, people these days rely too much on emotional response.
Oh my gosh, when you get angry and the first thing that pops out of your head or your mouth is what you do or say, it's never going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to contribute to healing anything. And if our mission in life is to get back at somebody else or get revenge, well, we're just all we're doing is contributing to the decline of society as a whole. And at that point, I would say, well, we don't love ourselves very much then either, because the more we poison the well, the worse it's going to get, and pretty soon it's just going to be violence everywhere. I mean, that's the logical extent of it. Now, does it happen fast enough? I don't know. But the point is that it doesn't heal anything.
I agree with it not healing anything. I disagree when it comes to the point of it destroying society.
Well, if enough of it goes on.
Oh yeah, and if enough of it, the main reason I disagree with that bit is because of that idea being put into practice throughout the years. Is like we had the medieval ages, then industrial revolution,
There's been,
et cetera, et cetera. We had plenty of like racial,
yes,
economic tensions, etc.
yes, we have.
And society has always progressed. So I don't.
It's progressed, but there's always been this undertow. But we live in a unique time,
Yes.
and that is that the flow of information today is so far ahead of anything.
Yeah. It's unending and instantaneous.
Instantaneous. And so this can lead to things rapidly declining far faster than what could have ever happened in the previous periods that you referenced.
Yeah.
Like I say, I don't know how fast things will go, but it doesn't help. All it does is make it worse.
Yeah, it's like, for reference, I know there was the attacks from India into Pakistan last night. We heard about that within minutes of it happening. There was also the attempted occupation of the University of Washington. From my understanding, the people have been kicked out and 20 or so have been arrested. And then I just found out a little bit ago that another group is trying to occupy the University of Columbia.
Okay.
So,
And the point being there,
it's like, these things are happening essentially spontaneously, and we're finding out also almost
Yeah,
spontaneously about them.
And so more and more of this is happening. We're fortunate, you and me. We live in a rural area. We don't see a lot of contention, although.
Yeah. I mean, there was the one guy who had a farm, and he, right after the 2020 election, he mowed Trump into the side of a giant hill.
That wasn't after. That was before. He was supporting Trump, and then
Oh.
down the highway, 2-3 big towns. Somebody else wrote by BYE-Don, by Don, and it was Biden. After the election.
That acronym didn't really work out, did it?
No.
Bye, Don. We'll see you in 2024.
Yeah, right. So everybody's having a last laugh, only it's not the last. It just we keep laughing at each other in not so nice ways, and it continues tit for tat. So just to take an example, in microcosm, although microcosm might be a bit of an understatement. Relations between Israelis and Palestinians, what we've seen going on with Gaza, for example. This is the latest in a centuries upon centuries back and forth.
Yeah, millennia even.
Yeah. When does it stop? When do we stop hating? When do we stop getting revenge?
Honestly, I know you're not going to be a fan of this answer, but I'm wondering if religion is playing too big a role in causing that hatred. Because the Jews want to exist in their holy land. The Palestinians want their land back. and then all the surrounding areas are like, oh, well, we gotta, on the love and honor for of our merciful God, we have to be as unmerciful as possible, etc.
Are you talking in the latter case about the Muslim, or what are you talking about?
Just like the general Middle East, because they seem to pretty much hate each other neighboring country.
Well, we have to be careful. I mean, there's even frictions between factions of Islamic
Oh, yeah.
groups. But the point is, hatred can come within or without a religious context.
Yeah.
And I think there are those who want to blame religion for everything, and I think they're a little short-sighted.
Yeah, I don't think religion is the root of evil. I just think, specifically in the case of the Middle East, I'm thinking maybe religion is causing a road to hell paved with good intentions.
Well, I would say when you get radicalized, there are those who think that they should be converting by force.
Yeah.
There are those who think that among Palestinians or Arabs, they might say the only good Jew is a dead Jew, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Among Israelis. Neither side is right. There is nothing that justifies that kind of hatred.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of the fact that there has been so much killing and so much violence between both sides. Now, I suspect you don't make either side real happy when you point out their
Oh, yeah.
hypocrisy.
Especially with all the instantaneous information going around, you have the really die-hard, you either support my faction or you're an enemy.
Yeah. And that's what I call radicalized.
Yeah.
Okay. But you notice that, to take for an example, Benjamin Netanyahu is the leader of the Israeli government, prime minister. He has done some things that would fall into that radicalized area, and a goodly percentage of the population gets out in the streets and protests saying, what are you doing? You're not helping the peace process.
Yeah.
You're not helping getting the hostages home. You're making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't paint with these broad brushes and say it's all one side or all the other. Like I said at the beginning of this, there's bad apples in every barrel. Okay.
You reminded me of a hilarious response to a comment I left on a video. I was watching a thing about a traffic stop in Minnesota. Now, I apparently did not have all the information, and I have since updated myself. But the basic premise of the short that I saw was a guy was stopped. The guy asked the cop if he could get out of his car and show him why the cop was wrong for pulling him over. The cop admitted that the guy was ultimately right, but then still demanded ID and insurance and everything. And I'm thinking, okay, well, as far as I know, if you get pulled over on the road and they have probable cause, you would have to show it. So I looked up the Minnesota statute, left a comment with the statute copy-pasted below, saying, I don't think this would work out, etc., etc., and explained why. I got a response to that saying, oh, you're just a MAGA bootlicker. It's like, Trump is a scummy con man. It's like, come on.
Well, but again,
If
people are assuming. It's
Yeah.
easy to make a big assumption. Why not have a dialogue? Why not say, why do you believe this? Why not say, have you considered why Have you considered Z?
Yeah.
In other words, could you admit that there may be a couple of ideas you're sharing here could have some problems with it, and let's have a dialogue.
Yeah. If I'm
The only reason the internet, or I should say, the only reason so much of the vitriol that is on the internet is out there is because we're not in the room with the person we're yelling at.
Yes. That's something I noticed a lot of people don't seem to realize. There is no audible context, there's no body language cues, etc. It's just plain text, and if you read it with an angry mindset, you're going to read it as attacking. If you read it with a depressed mindset, you're going to think that all the world is all just gloom and doom from whatever you read, etc.
And yet I will say this too, though. Quite often people make posts like that when they're angry. And again, having anger as an emotion, as a human emotion, is a natural thing. We get angry about stuff, okay? It's what we do with the anger that matters.
Yeah.
And it's how we react to the anger is what matters.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if we would try to gain the discipline of thoughtful response as opposed to a knee-jerk anger response,
Yeah.
we could have dialogue and we could solve problems. And we don't have to assume the other person is scum. We don't have to assume the other person is hateful. We don't have to assume anything about the other person. They may reveal that about themselves later on in a discussion. I've had that happen.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't have to stoop to that. And again, I fail to see how that contributes anything positive. Winning an argument is not the goal.
Yeah.
It's making a friend. It's having an exchange of ideas and finding a better solution than we had previous.
Yeah. And I know there are certain points like the deportation thing that you disagree with Trump about, and I think he's doing the right thing.
It's methodology, and it's
But
it's the fact that there's kind of an indiscriminate blanket way of doing it that,
Yeah.
that doesn't take into account a lot of nuance or factors that would be important and so on.
and ultimately I agree there are some issues with the way he's doing it, but I think there are things that Trump does right, even though I think he is a scummy con man. It's like, just because you don't like someone doesn't mean they can't have a point. And
Right.
that's what a lot of people
Right.
don't.
And a lot of people find that he stands up for something that they feel has been neglected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if the thing that has gotten people to get behind him has anything to do with hatred, or it has anything to do with trying to reestablish superiority that has gone away,
Yeah.
you know, those kinds of things, that's I'm sorry.
And-
God didn't create us, put us on this earth to behave that way. He just didn't. Now, I suppose I'm getting off the rails for you, but it's in our own self-interest, isn't it? It's in our own self-interest to try to work with others and try to find solutions. To just
Yes.
to just merely react in a reactionary way with anger, ultimately that doesn't help ourselves, because if nothing else, at the very least, we are carrying a bitterness within ourselves, and we're just blowing up at everybody else, and pretty soon we're isolated. And I'm a chaplain, a hospice chaplain. I can't divulge anything other than to say I have run across at least a couple of people in my walk that have almost entirely or have entirely isolated themselves from the rest of the world. And some of that is paranoia, mind you. But they can't even see how their negativeness, reacting to everybody that comes into their world, drives people away.
Yep.
And they think it's somebody else's fault.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, anyway.
And anyways, Asman's opinions is not the main reason. So whenever he pauses and starts talking, I'll skip through it because that's not the subject I thought you would find interesting.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's hypocritical of one guy that said the problem with justification infinitely and slurs. The answer, yes,
No hate.
she's right.
Okay.
No racism, no hate. No racism, no hate. Unless it's against white people, I guess. Instead of donating to a trailer trash racist, you can donate to me instead. What?
Okay. And what are you thinking about that?
Oh, well, she was just reading a comment on Twitter there.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that? Yeah, that's Twitter.
So am I wrong? Am I misunderstanding anything here? There is this notion that seems to be gaining some traction. I wouldn't say a lot, but some. That we live in a time where it's kind of a reverse hatred of whites, or particularly white males.
Yeah, I don't really understand it. And it's like, especially when it comes to the university, quote unquote, protests, it's like the videos I saw last night about the one with Washington. The person that was shouting death to the police and every IOF killed is a victory for the resistance.
What is an IOF?
I think it stands for Israeli Offensive Force or something. I don't know. But it's probably some kind of like either law enforcement or military
Okay.
thing. But the video ends up panning over to look at all the protesters, and the kid shouting all of that is a skinny white dude, probably like 19 or so. And it's like, you're telling the police they should die, and all of their deaths are a victory, but you're ultimately a product of the colonialism and rules that you apparently hate. So why?
To a degree.
So why are you not giving your money to the Native Americans, and your land back to the Native Americans from which your forefathers stole?
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole other can of worms, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, whether we're protesting because we feel ourselves or our group, whatever group it is that we belong to, has been slighted, or we protest because we think some other group has been slighted and we don't think that's right. Okay. Go ahead and protest. That's fine. Make your point.
Yeah.
But again, as a part of the protest, once it turns radical, once it turns where any portion of it even has hatred of any kind, now you're defeating your own purpose.
Yeah.
Because people are going to look at you like you've lost your marbles.
Yeah. And a great example of this happening on both sides was during Trump's first term. The Charlottesville people that went around with their tiki torches, that was just a thinly veiled KKK march.
Pretty much.
And then, I don't remember how many years it was, like 1 or 2, then it was the George Floyd incident where the Twin Cities had a lot of vandalism because people were violently, quote-unquote, protesting against police brutality.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't a protest. It was a physical venting of anger and okay, we're gonna get even kind of a thing.
Yeah. Which, by the way, you did not get even at all. A lot of the businesses that ended up getting burned down and destroyed were owned by black people.
Exactly. How ironic is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Where should our examples come from with regard to a protest that has positive effect? There's two that come to mind, and I think you know who I'm going to talk about. It's Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi.
Yep.
They were nonviolent, and Gandhi's protests eventually resulted in independence for his nation, being released from imperialistic rule. And though Martin Luther King didn't live to see the day, he showed the world how nonviolent protest will eventually, if it gets enough coverage, and the media age was just getting going in his day, with enough coverage, people will look at it and say, this is wrong.
Yeah, it's a case of you can control the bodies, but if you don't win over the hearts, the bodies will eventually take control back.
Another one, can I think of his name now? I can see his face plain as day. Nelson Mandela.
Yes, I was trying to remember his name too.
Yeah, he was jailed for 20 years or more, but he never uttered an angry word
No.
at his captors. He was a political prisoner, and I remember being in college, and there were protests then about freeing Mandela and about the evils of apartheid and so on. And enough people with enough non-violent protest gained the attention to pressure the markets to diverge from investing in anything South African, and it took time, but it worked.
Yeah.
He got his freedom, and apartheid was ended, and not a shot was fired. How about that?
Yeah.
That tells me that love is stronger than hate, ultimately.
Yes. And the main issue is that hate is easier than love.
Oh, it's far easier. You don't have to hardly do anything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But the result, as I say, it's not only destructive towards the other, it's self-destructive.
So no, then for real.
What a
Oh no, yeah, she just wanted that bag. That's what it is.
little weasel. What a little weasel freak, actually.
True, absolutely.
How in the name of Baby Moses on Fire did we go from the loving society of the 90s to the fucking mess in 2025? That's some chutzpah.
ad
A lot of
hominem-
people are just like,
Ad hominem name calling. How does that advance anything?
Yeah, sadly it doesn't.
It keeps happening.
And I am personally guilty of this. I refer to a lot of people as morons.
You know?
So,
And they may just be misinformed. They
Yeah.
may be misled. You don't know. You really have to get to know someone to know for
Yeah.
sure.
honestly, the only thing I know about the people that come into the clinic I work at is that they don't read signs. That doesn't make them a moron. That just means they don't use their knowledge.
That's a pet peeve. I get it. Yeah. I deal with a lot of people who like to skim instead of read.
I wish the people that came into our clinic skimmed.
Yeah.
I've had people ask me where something is, and the sign saying where it is right above their head.
We're in such a hurry, but you know, I had a boss once that had a philosophy. He says, if you've got time to get it wrong, he says, you've got time to get it right.
Because if you have time to get it wrong, you're going to end up doing it again.
Yeah, right?
That's why the saying is measure twice, cut once.
Right, exactly.
unfollowed. That's an unfollow for me. Bostonian guy said, oh no, what am I going to do without...
Yeah, I don't remember you commenting on the reason why they're not. It's because faces. It's gonna right. They already know. She clearly answering for a lot. You should moment that, but
I don't think most people think it's okay.
oh, okay.
Of things happening.
Everybody knows that.
I think there are a lot of people who are tired of things happening, like Daniel Penny, like...
Yeah, Daniel Penny, total fucking W.
I have no clue who that
multiple
is.
fucking. I don't even feel bad for him. I'm kidding you, nuts. Yeah.
Like the Carmelo Anthony. There's just a lot of people tired of the two-tier justice system, and they start saying some crazy things and doing...
That's exactly right. Absolutely believe it.
So what is
And
this?
absolutely they
What is this two-tiered system she's referring to?
I think they're referring to the tier of...
Is she claiming that minorities get better treatment in the court system than whites? Is that what she's saying?
I think she's saying that people perceive the opposite way, where whites get preferential treatment.
Okay. And she doesn't think that's the case?
I don't know this person enough,
Yeah.
so I couldn't even really guess what she thinks.
If I was going to say there's a two-tiered justice system, the two-tier is the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, because obviously,
And it doesn't matter what color you are.
yeah, if you have money, you can just buy your way out of whatever you're accused of.
If you can get the best lawyers money can buy, you can just about get away with anything almost.
Yeah, look at Trump. He doesn't even have the best lawyers, and he's getting away with quite a bit.
Oh my gosh. another story for another day.
Yeah.
kill some this $1 million, burn jail and burn down. This is egg is complete with is the wings and the supporter about and right. Anyways, I just don't care that other people is because do you see what? No, I don't go this view. Yeah, just go beside. That's true. Go. So anyway, some with the fact.
Well, if
I think
our
this-
listeners aren't annoyed
this
by
is
the
about her.
I
think it's so
don't know
funny
what they'll get annoyed by.
And listen,
Oh, yeah.
Anthony, George,
can-
there's a lot. They start saying some crazy, the two-tier justice system, and they start saying some crazy things and doing some crazy things. That doesn't make it okay, but it's like,
We're talking in generalities.
That's just-
so she even says that of it being bad. I'm just saying, claims mad want to complain, think up to agree with he's mentally ill.
I think that might be it for her segment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well. Yeah.
But yeah, basically while she probably said some things that might not necessarily be true, like the two-tiered justice system.
Well, it depends what she means by it. It's
Yeah.
not pretty. It's not very clear.
The point is that she was saying both cases are bad.
Was she? I'm not sure I heard that. Because at the beginning, I
Right.
thought
If-
I thought she was complaining about
Mad at
one
this?
and not
Just
the other.
They can
I,
do. Yeah, she's totally right.
mad at this just outs you as like a very hypocritical person.
Well, it's not even.
You can raise money for calling a 5-year-old the N-word is insane. Hope they shut down her campaign. They shouldn't. They didn't shut
So,
down
hold
Carmelo
on.
Anthony's campaign. So getting
She's right.
yeah, she's saying that because they didn't shut down Carmelo Anthony's fundraiser, they shouldn't shut this one down.
Somebody made a comment that should happen. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Again, there's a bit of an assumption there to claim whoever makes that comment is a hypocrite, because do we know that person even made a comment about Carmelo Anthony or
That is a very fair point.
I mean, hypocrisy is when person A says
something and then does something
says
different.
B and does C. You know,
Yeah.
quite the opposite.
Yeah.
So a charge of hypocrisy, you can't assume that
Yeah.
the person has a double standard. You've got to prove it. No assertion
Yeah.
by anyone should be taken at face value without solid evidence.
Yeah.
And since you were bringing up our current occupant of the White House, he and a number of those who work for him have no problem making assertions, general assertions, about individuals or groups, and there's nothing to back it up quite often. And
Well, I agree that they are apprehending people seemingly willy-nilly.
I was just talking generally, not
Yeah.
specifically about the immigration piece,
Yeah.
but just generally. But okay, go ahead.
But, yeah, at least in regards to the immigration piece, I do think there should be due process, but the due process for an illegal immigrant should be very simple to prove.
Well,
And it shouldn't take that long. It's like, you apprehend them, you get their personal identifiers, you look up their legal government documents. If they have nothing on file saying they are or are in the process of, then they should be deported.
I'm glad you brought that up, because our President Trump has said, he's characterized it as not what they are, which are hearings, immigration hearings, but
Yeah.
trials. And trials sounds like, that takes a long time. Anybody, paying attention to any trials in the news, it doesn't happen in a
Well, I mean,
hurry.
hearings and trials are essentially interchangeable. It can take forever either way.
No. A hearing you can do in an afternoon. A trial, if we're talking about a serious crime, a trial can take at minimum a week.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the specific one itself, I'm referring more to the whole overall process, because you could have like 5 or 6 different hearings.
Well, I don't know how many hearings. I've never been through the process, so I plead a little bit of ignorance there. it shouldn't be so involved. That being said, the rules that have been set up to make what would be termed legal immigration happen, I think were written by someone or someones who really didn't want it to happen, frankly. And because when immigrants are having to wait decades to be able to even
Yeah, I'm not
go through the naturalization process.
Yeah, I couldn't really say whether or not they were written to
Well,
keep immigrants out, but whatever it is, it's definitely overly complicated and takes way too much time.
I challenge anyone to look up the history of our nation in this regard.
Yeah,
It's pretty obvious that quotas, immigration quotas over the decades, largely, not entirely, but largely, have been written favoring persons of white Anglo-Saxon, Scandinavian, Northern European backgrounds,
yeah,
and not others.
yeah. And I don't want to make it
And there's even an exception to that because the Irish took it on the chin for a long time too.
Yeah, that's one of the thing I was just gonna bring up. It's not like our country innately hates Latin people or South Americans, because we've had periods of hate against. I know the Italians.
Yeah.
I know the Irish and Scottish during the potato famines. I know there was the bit about the Native Americans when the colonies first got here. I don't remember.
Well, and that happened for
I don't remember many others off the top of my head, but it wouldn't
almost
surprise
the
me.
entirety of the 19th century and maybe into the early 20th century. I mean, they were still. It shouldn't be a maybe. It was into the early 20th century, and probably you could say even up to the mid 20th century.
Yeah,
Because the Department of Interior, its actions by and large was not honoring treaties. It was not doing what it was supposed to be set up to do in helping Native Americans have a decent welfare living.
Yeah.
And I don't mean welfare in the terms of welfare benefits. I mean welfare as in just a good standard of living, period, given that they gave up so much.
yeah,
And of course, Chinese and Japanese immigrants coming from the East during the 19th century, you know, that was frowned upon.
yeah. And it's also not like it's just an America issue, because I don't know a lot of Canadian history, but I know Canada had re-education camps of their own for the Native Americans,
Yeah.
and that resulted in a lot of children dying and being buried in mass unmarked graves.
Well, in the history of European wars,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
might as well just be the history of European aggression, to be fair.
anyway,
Thankfully, things have tamed down in that regard.
yeah. So anyway, have we nailed it?
Yeah, I think that was a good discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope our scattershot methods here aren't too discouraging. We want to have a serious discussion. We want to get those who are listening to us, I gather, to think a little more deeply and,
Yeah.
and maybe be a part of the helping process to bring more dialogue and understanding.
Yeah, and honestly, if people want to leave comments. Anyone that actually watches our podcast.
And don't leave vitriol.
Oh, that's going to happen no matter what.
Well, it might.
No, it will. It's an internet thing.
It
no matter
is.
who you are, you'll get vitriol.
But trust me, constructive criticism is far better because I can actually use that.
Yes. But, like, I know you're heavily left-wing with a more centrist, not centrist, center-leaning.
I don't know that I'm so easily categorized.
Yeah.
You might think so, but
Yeah. I'm just saying in the broad political spectrum, you're more left with a center-leaning. I'm more center with a left-leaning.
I had 2 years as a county newspaper editor. Editor is a glorified term. I was really a reporter, a one-man reporting.
Oh yeah, you went there, recorded things, and then wrote up the articles.
Or interviewed or whatever. But I had a lot of people who thought I was very fair. So,
Yeah.
for whatever it's worth, my thing is I'm for justice and against injustice. I'm for helping those in need, and I don't mind that people get wealthy, but when they do it by exploitative means,
Yeah, like Amazon. It's like
then I have a problem.
yeah, they were like Amazon. This is definitely a discussion for another time. But Amazon, they have a employee model where they have, I think it's like 200 or 300% burnout annually. They deliberately work people to the bone, even penalizing them for taking bathroom breaks and such.
Well, anyway, enough for today.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, if you're listening.
Yeah. Have a nice day.